One of the biggest challenges I think that we all face is structuring your routine outside of work or academia if you're still in education. Now, and what underlies what sits underneath that is how can you be more productive in the time that you have outside of work? Now, there's several layers that sit within that, and let's just unpack it one by one. So first of all, it's important to understand or to expand the concept of work. Now, what many or most of us have had is a lifetime up until the point you make this decision, but a lifetime of assuming that work is Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And within the context of that, there's a lot of things that you do have. So there's a lot of structures that support the notion that you are at work. There's modern media because I say, oh, happy Monday, or thank God it's Friday because it's the weekend, and that validates the need to take time off. And then you've got your colleagues, whether it's your schoolmates, your classmates, your workmates, whoever it might be. So a lot of this falls away at the weekend, and then you fundamentally get this different set of markers for recreational time. And we've got most of us, if you've been at school from age 5 up until 20, 21, you've had 15 years of this. So it's normal that it's challenging to undo that. And then of course you go into the workplace and it's a different version of the same thing. You have a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and outside of that, it's recreational time. So one of the things is that sits underneath that is that if you're watching this, the assumption is that you want to be more productive with the time that you have. Of course, the why is important. So why do you want to be more productive with the time that you have? And most people say something to the effect of because I want to be more successful. That's probably not fucking enough, first of all, because there are so many different versions of the devil that will whisper in your ear. Oh, it's Wednesday. Come on, mate. Just have one. Oh, it's Saturday. Let's go. So expanding your notion of the working week takes discipline, first of all, because you are attempting to do something that you've not done before. So there's always going to be an inertia to act. A simple example of that is if you have to be at your desk every Monday to Friday at 9 a.m., then there's no there's no short-term reward or dopamine that comes from fundamentally turning up at 9. So what happens, and it's a function of that, we get our dopamine center that's continuously rewarded when we clock in at work, when we get the report in by midday, when we get our appointments by end of day, and all of that falls away at the weekend. So what's actually happening is that you're being way more reliant upon you because there's no one else. Actually, in fact, everyone else is going to work against you because it's a weekend. Enjoy time with friends and family and chill out, and you work too hard. And so, again, it's all a function of what do you want to do with your time? Do you want to get ahead? If you want to get ahead, can you do it in your 9 to 5? Probably not, because then you're just doing the same thing everyone else is doing. And that's how I don't know, you get a couple of promotions, you get a couple of pay rises, and that's your life. And then you get into it's a rat race. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's the life that you want to live. That's not the life that I want to live. And whatever I do, I want to be extremely successful at it. So the why can never fall away. But let's just the why is so important because it's difficult to manage the challenge of all of the demons that sit weekdays and weekends, but it's all a function of, well, what do I want to do with my time? And what is the work that's required to get there? So having purpose is important. Part of it, of course, is intrinsic. So success for the sake of success, because I want to be a successful person. And no one can fucking give that to you. However, there are, of course, extrinsic things that you can do that can help build the level of discipline at the weekends because the reality is that practically the tools are there available to you. So you could have a 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. schedule on Saturdays and Sundays. That means that you do 4 hours of solid work. The time that you allocate, you need to commit to, but that then also means making sacrifices on your Wednesday night and Thursday night and your Friday because you need to get to bed early because you're not going to wake up at 6 a.m. otherwise, or you're going to wake up You have a hangover, or you'll have gone to bed late and you won't be productive, and you'll just cheat yourself because it won't really be a 6 till 10. It'll be a 8:30 a.m. until 10:15, and then you'll say, I'm done. So that process takes time because you've had a lifetime of not doing that. If you think about it, most of the Saturdays that you spent in your life up until now, you've taken time off. So don't expect to have a special forces Saturday if you've had a recreational Saturday for your whole life until now. It doesn't work like that. You don't go from 0 to 1 immediately. It's going to take time, but you want to go from being totally recreational to practical. So I'll talk about then, with that in mind, some of the things that work for me. The body's good at remembering routines. So routines, and this is where simple practices can really support weekends. So if you develop the habit of not drinking alcohol, you're statistically much less likely to drink alcohol on a Friday, which will help your Saturdays. Same thing with smoking, same thing with processed food, same thing with eating late. All of this can affect your next day. So Benjamin Hardy has this concept of nighttime guy versus daytime guy, which I really like and I think is quite applicable. So we all have two different versions that we walk around with in our life. We've got daytime guy. Daytime Deepak is active. He's making the YouTube videos. He's talking to his team. He's motivating people. He's closing deals. He's doing business, taking names, fucking kicking down doors. Nighttime Deepak, ooh, he wants to hang out with his mates. Maybe he wants to party a bit. Maybe he wants to, chill out, enjoy, have a milkshake. And nighttime guy is always trying to sabotage daytime guy. His goal is to sabotage daytime guy so nighttime guy can enjoy life, knock off work a little bit early, to go to the pub, you put in a good shift, it's all good. Everyone will call you a hero, even if in the back of your mind you know that you didn't leave it all out on the table. Because of course only you will know. No one else will know. Only you will know. So the key and the challenge to have productive weekdays is to deal with nighttime guy. And dealing with nighttime guy takes a lifetime of discipline because you've had nighttime guy and weekend guy for your entire life. And that weeknight guy and weekend guy it's been dopamine fed. It's an addicted bunny rabbit that's on that rat race. Weekend, margarita Fridays, omelette brunch Saturdays. Oh wow, weekend. And then you don't fucking realize that 3 years pass and you've got other threats. It's the same thing that you saw in academia. The reason you need to fucking put the work on the weekends if you want the reward, because all of those kids that did better than you at school, they were working on their Saturdays. All of those kids that went and got the career, they were working when the other kids were ultimately laughing at them or calling them silly. And those kids became the nerds who then began to run the companies who are the leaders of today. Your career is no fucking different to that. But what happens is that sometimes people somehow forget the things that made the nerds successful in school. And I say nerds with love, right? And then they become this different person and expect they're going to achieve the same levels of success. Nerds rule the fucking world. So be a nerd with your career. Don't be cool. And actually being cool today is being the nerd. It's, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I go bed at 10 p.m., I wake up at 4, 5, and I put in the motherfucking work. I all of that. So there's tactics, right? There's several alarm clocks, there's saying no to this, there's reducing sugar in your diet, there's reading, there's doing the work. But it's something that will take time. And I mean, a small insight for those of you who are watching into how I structure my weekends. So I have loose timelines for so I have loose timelines. So I generally wake up between 4:30 and 5:30. Weekends I might wake up at 8. Other days I might even wake up at 9. A lot of it depends upon what is happening in that season of my life. There's never a weekend that goes by that I don't work there. Never. I don't think I've taken a day off in it's been shorter than I'd have liked, but I don't think I've taken a Saturday or Sunday off since I started Pearl Lemon. Not truly. There's always some work that's happening. There's never a totally recreational day. And actually, your weekends will take care of yourself if you become addicted to the work that you do because it just becomes unnatural to take time off. Because when you achieve some level of competency, and it begins with inertia, but then your body gets used to the work. It gets used to the work ethic. It gets used to the graft. You get used to not going out and partying on a Friday night. My family are used to me being there at an event and doing that by 10. My family are used to me saying, Deepak, you just kind of die at like 10:30 because you're like, and over time, that has meant that I don't always go to some events. Yesterday, I didn't go to my sister-in-law's house because they know that I don't function well on a Sunday at 9 p.m. because I'm thinking about the work. So I stay home and it's okay. So initially, there's inertia. Initially, there's resistance, but those who love you will understand. And those who don't understand will be at best a peripheral part of your life. Because if you are willful enough with these things, people will adjust to your standard, but don't let other people's standard become your standard unless their standard is something that you massively aspire to. So my standard has become the standard in our household. It took a long time to live with an Italian woman and for her to adjust to me being committed to waking up early because that actually meant we had to had dinner by 6:30 and 7. That meant that the family dinners that we had were different. That meant that I didn't go to theirs on a weekday. That meant we had to have a exchange where there'd be particular days that I'd go out, other days I wouldn't go out. We we barely we drink sometimes, in fact. We have a glass of wine here and there, but in our household, since we've been here, we've never bought wine. We don't drink wine unless I mean, I don't even think we drink wine here. So look, if you're thinking about how to make your weekends and weekdays more productive, I put to you that the answers are all out there. But again, it's just about unlearning the lifetime you've had of recreational Saturdays. Because if you just literally map it out, if you're, I mean, it's just simple math at one point, but if you're 18, no, let's say even if you're 20 and you started this journey at 15, whatever, let's say 5 years of Saturdays, there's 52 weeks in a year, that's 52 Saturdays. That means over 5 years, there's 150 recreational Saturdays. It won't change in one Saturday. It's going to take time. But if you attack it, you'll be surprised that in even 52 sets of Saturdays, you can undo 500 Saturdays worth of work. So it's not about today, it's about the Saturdays that you're going to have in tomorrow, in 5 years from now. And over time, that's how you beat people. Because every Saturday you've had for the last 150 Saturdays, you've been putting in 3 hours of work. That's 450 hours of additional work. And I mean work. I don't mean bullshit work. And most people, of course, do bullshit work and count it as work. But you know, and you know whether you learned something, whether you gained something from it. And these are the things at the top that make the difference. And remember, it's all a function of who you're competing against. In the beginning, you'll compete with everyone else who isn't working on a Saturday. And that's exactly where you should begin. And then you move into competing against all of the other people who do work on the Saturday. So first of all, you need to be the nerds. And then you need to compete with the nerds. And then you need to beat the nerds as well. And that's no easy thing. But start that journey and you will begin to change forever the way that you see your weekends because the weekends are just another version of another day to get ahead. Cool. Do you have any follow-up questions, Evan, about that? Or anyone?
Is first question, my mic a little bit better?
Fixed.
Yeah. My with as well as structuring your time and getting into those undoing those old habits and creating those new habits with proper work. Obviously, the work's not going to be the same as you maybe, but it's not going to be the same work you do in a week.
Hmm.
So that ideally by proper work, you mean maybe setting yourself up for better work when the week starts.
I mean, so there's 100. I'd say look, there's a
It's all
couple of
there. Yeah.
buckets really. There's physical work, right? So there's exercise to make oneself healthier. There's diet to improve. There's mental work to improve my mind, and there might be work attached to the workplace. So we all, when we think about self-development, rotate between those buckets, right? We talk about health, wealth, self, and everyone else. So it's just about whatever you want to make your mantra for Saturdays. And
Mm.
potentially it's a combination of all. So practically on Saturday, I at the moment, as an example, I'm going through all of Alex Hormozi's videos. And then I will also take some Italian bits on Duolingo. I'll then reactively deal with some of the stuff that comes up from people that are working at the weekend. A lot of the Pakistani team work at the weekends, and everyone has a slightly different MO when it comes to how they work. And I'm not
mm,
that fussed about it at Pearl Lemon. People, so it just really what that means for you. For you, it might mean Saturday, but I think for it, there'll be seasons, so it will change over time. Let's say that right now, I'm going through all of Alex Hormozi's videos. You asked me a year ago, I was just going on Audible. A year before that, I might have been thinking about. So it doesn't. I wouldn't. Don't care too closely about the particulars of the work that you do, but care vehemently about putting the work in. As long as you put the work in, it can rotate. It's just about you. Try it. You might, for example, say, right, I'm going to do a long run Saturday, every Saturdays. And you might discover in a month that it doesn't work for you, and you might try something else. And that's where it's very much an individual choice. As long as you commit to, right, I'm going to do something productive, and then over time you'll figure out what's most productive for you. So only you can decide that. Of course, the problem is you're like, right, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. What do I do with all my time? Well, just begin with what can't I do? I'm
mm.
not going to go and game and do whatever people your age do, like, e-gaming or whatever. I'm sure you've got mates that do that. And Aaron was doing that religiously for a while. And hopefully that's taking care of itself because he realizes that this is just a trap.
Mm.
It's not going to lead me anywhere. So you will find ways to be productive, but maybe just begin with your don't list. I
Mm.
won't do this. I won't
Yeah.
do that. I won't do this. And just stick to that. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm not going to wake up 6 a.m. and then slowly meander onto Instagram and start watching loads of shorts and quality. Maybe though, some people get a lot of value from shorts because you could watch all of someone like Chris Bumstead. If he does actually give educational advice, you could be like, right, I'm going to slowly go through all of his shorts and I'm going to take notes and I'm going to apply that to the way that I try and build muscular mass in the gym. I don't know. It could be for you. You might say that, right, I want to go through all of Grant Cardone's books because he's a famous salesperson and I want to sell more effectively. It might be a bit of both, mate. So it begins with the biggest challenge for most of us is building that I won't list or because all of us have our own version of that. And that's very, very difficult, mate. And don't get me wrong, that's a journey. But don't worry too much about the journey now. Worry about tomorrow, because otherwise the full journey overwhelms you. So for this Saturday or this week will take care of itself because you're at work and you're productive. But I know that you're coming here because probably you're with your mates this weekend and you thought, I'm wasting my time talking about whatever the fuck 17, 18-year-olds talk about. Oh, this work or that person at school or who's sleeping with who or who went out with what or I'm planning this holiday. I want to buy a car. All of these short-term things that are ephemeral. It's just like it's transient. It's also part of the reason why my friendship network changed because it's like I'm reading from a different playbook. I'm not interested in talking about any of that. And over time, it just took care of itself. I just stopped. There's just nothing in common anymore. But yeah, it's difficult. But of course it is. That's why very few people do it, mate. Especially at your age, 17, and thinking about stuff like that. I wasn't there when I was your age, mate. I didn't get there until I was boy, 32 probably, like double your age if I'm being honest, mate. So yeah, pick one thing and just experiment and don't
Mm.
worry if it doesn't work because you have next Saturday to try again and the next Saturday after that. So it's all right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably a lot easier to eliminate the things you're doing wrong, not wrong, but it's a lot easier to eliminate the don'ts because they're already there right in front of you. They're a lot easier to identify than the things that do need doing because you can't see that yet.
Yeah, of course, you can't. Your ability to see is limited very much at your age by what you know. You don't know
Mm,
that much, mate, because you're just still learning. Get through 100 books on business, and then you'll know a little bit more, and then you need to apply it, or get through 100 books on sales, and then you know a little bit more, and then you'll apply it. The don't list though, people have a pretty clear view on what don't looks like,
mm,
and as long as you fall forward as well, I wouldn't, I don't, I would be impressed by anyone who could just say, right, I've just stopped talking to my mates and I'm not going to talk to them anymore again. The reality is it might be over a course of weeks. some lessons take minutes, some lessons take months, and others take years, and some take decades, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to stop watching TV, and I've got friends who just stopped, and it was so simple for them. And I was like, oh, I can't. It's difficult for me. That's my little Everest. It's like they're like, but bro, how do you run 100 miles, but then you can't not watch Netflix? I'm like, I don't know, mate. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just what I struggle with. It's like my treat. It's my mental ice cream when I'm like, oh, let me just watch this like new TV show that came out. It looks good. And I sit there like that. And then I've got friends that I just read more I do, and I'm like, oh. Anyway. We all have it, mate. Like we all have
Mm,
it, and it's a challenge. As long as you fall forward, and over time you see progression, and then the rest will, the gaps will begin to fill in.
yeah, ultimately comparison really, isn't it, over time?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Any other questions on this? Yeah, go on, Troy.
Kind of just adding more into what you were saying about the Saturdays and how there's the X amount of Saturdays within in the month, an example like 52. Um, what I kind of thought about that is the more you do, the more you'll know what to do as well as what not to do. So it's kind of like a funnel process and kind of like a sieve. So the more you do, you kind of realize what's not necessary and what is necessary and what's necessary to focus on a little bit more and what's not, as important to focus on.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think that the more you know what to do, so the in the beginning, when the demons are very evident, it's easier. Oh, I smoke. I'm not going to smoke anymore. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to reach for the extra cookie. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to go to this family event on a Saturday morning because it's not going to help me. Everyone's got a different version of that, right? That's definitely like there's external resistance and internal resistance you get to that. But then sometimes you don't knowing there's also a part of it that's challenging is when you know what you're meant to do, but you don't get the immediate reward from it. And that's something that needs unlearning as well, because we live in a very reward-based system where Sakshi gives her teacher a project. Well done. Amazing. Hey, well done. Oh, darling, well done. We've had a lifetime of this. But that's success. No one's clapping with success. So yeah, we have to unlearn that as well, and that's difficult. And that's where people also have come to me in the last couple of weeks, like Deepak, look, I made an improvement the last 2 weeks. I want a pay rise. I said, bro, it's just 2 weeks. It's not. I'm not been rewarded by my clients for 2 weeks of good work. They say, cool, it's going well so far. Give it 6 months. Let's see if we get the actual result. So that's the part that's actually also difficult, if that makes sense, Troy. So we need to
Yeah.
unlearn recreational Saturdays, and we also need to unlearn correlating hard work with an immediate reward, because that's not how life is either.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It's almost going against your,
Yeah.
or
It's
destroying
very,
your old self-beliefs essentially and recreating new ones.
yeah,
So
it
that
begins with,
must be very difficult.
hmm,
I can understand.
yeah, because we all get a lifetime of that, but then there's no reward on the Saturday for reading the books. There's no reward for maybe making the additional 10 cold calls initially. You need to look for lead indicators, and there's always some indicators, like success leaves breadcrumbs, but there's no verbal immediate dopamine hit, which is why you need to just, the reward is the work itself. And if you get used to that, and if you enjoy the burn when you do the extra rep, if you enjoy the resistance to whatever it might be, that's you have to learn to rewire. So yeah, you have to break down old beliefs, build up new ones, and unlearn everything that most of society and education has taught you, because that's what keeps you trapped. Because we go for the
Yeah.
short-term reward, and the short-term reward doesn't give you anything.
Yeah. I mean, this book, The Atomic Habits that I was
Mm.
reading was incredible, and I think that that
Yeah,
was a true like piece of like
yeah,
small things over a long period of time will eventually compound into something
yeah,
incredibly big.
yeah.
And that I
That
think
book
is
is
like
like, look at what champions do, build the habits of champions. Don't look at their
yeah,
results, look at their systems and follow the systems and follow the routines, and then the goals will take care of themselves. This is absolutely, absolutely 100%. It's true. It's true. I still struggle with that also. It's tough. But
yeah,
but of course it's tough. That's why so few people. That's why you have the multi-millionaires with the jets and the lifestyle, and then you have everybody fucking else. So yeah,
Yeah.
dude. What do you think they were doing on Saturday? Do you think they were partying at the pool with their friends? Of course they fucking weren't.
Yeah.
Because yeah. So and that book is great. That book is fantastic. So that's why reading is big because you realize that with where the education system is at, and even most careers, they don't teach you the real skills to be successful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. That book is everyone should read that book. It's a great book.
Yeah.
I'll take any more questions or comments.
I've got one more question. It's a little bit off topic to what we're speaking about, but it's more of just how to manage it, I would say, and your personal opinions and your thought process behind it. So obviously you do things throughout the day, and at times with things like the way that they compound, sometimes the workload can get a bit much and
Hmm.
it can almost make you spin out. So
Hmm.
my question to you is when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling like the workload is too much and you don't know where to start, how do you start? And what is your kind of thought process to kind of digest the heavy workload to kind of be like, okay, cool, this is going to be my starting point and this is how I'm going to find my way through the rest, if that makes sense. If you would like me to elaborate more, I'll try my best.
No, I think I've got a sense of it. So I think that what anyone finds stressful is a function of the stress that they've undergone, first of all,
Yeah.
right? So stress is very relative. So it does just mean that this is something I've not yet encountered before.
Yeah.
And so it's normal to be stressed out by it if you've not been there before, because you think, okay, I'm facing a set of variables that I'm unfamiliar with, right? So I don't know this pressure. When you've had your third or
Mm.
fourth exam, you understand the pressure of exam prep and you begin to normalize it. You understand how your body's responding to it and you understand the stimulus. So, first of all, just knowing that I find to be quite helpful. Okay, this is just new. It's just
Yeah.
new, and that's okay. Second of all, I
Just
think
acknowledge
that,
it.
yeah, so second of all, then it's a matter of, controlling your heart rate, breathing techniques, taking a step back from the work, going for a quick walk, resetting yourself, coming back, trying to build a list, breaking it down one bucket at a time. All of these things that we learn. Okay, feeling stressed, breathe. Let's build the list. Let's shut the noise out. So if you've got the door open, so a lot of people work with the door open, which is me. Troy, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done this? Have you done that? Da, 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 da. This is overdue. So you need to close the doors, first of all, which might mean, guys, I need 20 minutes. I'll be right back. Turn off your phone, whatever it is, compose yourself, write down your list and start attacking things one by one.
I
So,
get
so
you.
and that's how I approach it. That's how I approach it when I'm overwhelmed.
Okay.
I get overwhelmed with stuff, as we all do, and you just have to understand that okay, it's normal because it's a new set of variables. So I need to fall back to what I've been told because we often forget. Most people just fucking forget the lessons that they've been given,
Yeah.
but most people just forget because what I've just told you, I know that you know. Whether you do it is a very different thing, though, and which is why the difference between knowing and doing, and most people confuse knowing and doing is like you intellectually know, but you don't know because you don't do it.
Yeah.
So that's where again I repeat to you, you actually have to fucking do it. So close the doors, which means turn WhatsApp notifications off for 20 minutes, or tell whoever's in your household, I just need a moment, go for a walk around the block. Normalize the heart rate, breathe, and be like, okay, cool. This is all the stuff that systematic desensitization also. So I mean that's a bit different, but that's what I do when I'm overwhelmed. And I'm overwhelmed a lot of the time. And it's never enjoyable. It's always a bit fucking like, oh my God,
Mm.
we've hired on a bunch of new people at the moment. Aaron's come in, Evan's come in, Ali's coming in, salaries are going to grow across the board. We don't yet have the new batch of clients to support everybody, so it's like a risk.
Yeah, I
So
get you.
that yeah, but I have to just breathe. Remember that if you perform really well, if Evan does, if Sakshi does, then everything will be okay. So I just need to focus on what's in front of me and be rational about it and think, okay, If I can help the
Yeah.
team level up, then so that's it, bro. Nothing else.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Cool.
I 100% agree with what you're saying, and it makes sense to kind of just recalibrate yourself before going back
Mm,
into, you could say, the mess. But yeah, I mean, like what I often find myself doing is that I know what to do, and in my brain, it's like, okay, cool, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. But at times, you think about that, and you get sidetracked with something else. You're like, shit, but I also need to do that, and you end up just spinning and just spinning your tires
mm,
for like half an hour, and you're like, what have I actually completed? You know what I mean? You
mm.
kind of just thought about it. So I'll definitely take that advice and just kind of step
It,
away,
it,
recalibrate, and
and you won't be perfect at it first time. It's not that it won't fucking ever happen again, but as long as you fall forward, and sometimes you measure these things depending upon the difficulty of the implementation, and of course that might be a function of how hard are you really trying. But for me, television has taken decades to fix. I've not fixed it. I know other people that are like first time was like, boop, I don't watch TV no more. But they had been trying to run more than 10 miles for a decade. And I was like, boop, I went from half to full marathon to ultra marathon to half Ironman to Ironman, all quite seamlessly, relatively. There was no difficult, there was not unexpected difficulty in transition. So it's why there's so much individual difference that comes up, mate. So there'll be areas in which you'll excel, and then other areas where you struggle. And of course, oftentimes where you struggle is where all the big value is, especially if it's something foundational. But overwhelm is a foundational thing that you should attack because it will affect every aspect of your life, of course. If you see that you get overwhelmed, that will color every area. It will color your relationships, no doubt. It will cover your professional life. It will cover color. So attack it aggressively, I'd say. Read the fucking books, do the work. I had a lot of emotional problems that I solved. I say I solved, they all still need solving. But my biggest hiccup to my success was that I was emotionally all fucked up through my 20s. So I had like a string of bad relationships, problems in my personal life, fucking, like, just I'm, yeah, not proud of a lot of the things I did in my 20s. So that's why it took me until I really hit 30 to sort my shit out. It's also why,
yeah,
all of the tattoos, a lot of the stuff that I did that involved pain was in my 20s. Like pain to as a means to escape, like blew up several businesses that I say several, there were sequential businesses I was trying to run, took investors' money, blew it all on partying. Fucking, I did a lot of dumb shit, bro. I did a lot of dumb shit, and fucking therapy helped me a lot. I spent about 2 years
yeah,
in therapy trying to sort my head out. So, that was what I needed. And I sent some of that with you. I see because I know that there's some personal darkness there, which I experienced in my life. And therapy actually helped me because once I got my heart right, I was able then to get my head right. Because my head kind of had the answers, because I've always been a smart motherfucker. I was, doing good at school, several years ahead. They're like, your son's gifted. I flew for all of my, got all A's, best results in the last 5 years. All of that was easy for me. It was like, I got it, I got it, I got it. It wasn't hard. It wasn't hard. It's like, oh, cool, I do the 4A levels. Like, oh, you got 100% in several of my, it was easy. But my heart was all fucked up, which meant I blew up a lot of the stuff that I touched. I raised
yeah,
the money. I was doing it. There's a trail of fucking destruction behind me.
yeah,
So, and I think oftentimes with the guys that I see, it's like that's where I think a lot, for me, that's where a lot of the work has been. Maybe not everyone, because maybe, some people come in, I say the fortune, whatever, it doesn't matter. But some people, have that all kind of squared away. So they're like, oh, I can focus, I can do this, I can do that. And in hindsight, obviously it's a function of my upbringing. I know that you've had a bit of a rough upbringing, and my parents got married at 11 and 13. It's kind of fucked up, really, in today's world. As a consequence, the way that I was raised was probably a bit weird. As a consequence, Aaron, I said to you, that's why, some of the things that you see in your mum that you think maybe are irrational. It's like, bro, she fucking was sent to India when she was 9 for 2 years without being told, which I think you know about, don't you? So it's arrogant of so that will have an impact on the way that she was raised, which has an impact on the way that you you have been raised, and that obviously manifests in some aspects of our behavior. But none of these aren't excuses, they're fuel. And it just also points you towards where your work needs to be, if that makes sense, Troy. So a rough childhood typically tends to translate to a bit of fucked up kind of children. So just do the emotional work. It took me longer than I like to work that out, but I spent a couple of years in therapy, and that helped me make more money and more success and more happiness than anything else. Because I didn't learn much more that I didn't know before that. It's just that I wasn't ready for the message in because I had all of this emotional shit to sort out. And that was what actually that was where my work lay. Maybe that's the same for you, mate. So just see a fucking I tell people, I'm like, I see when some people I see them and I see darkness, I'm like, mate, just see a fucking therapist for a couple of years. Sort yourself right out. Honestly, it sounds flippant, but I have history behind it. I blew up a lot of relationships I was in. Daniela, my wife now, she fucking left me twice. And because I was just an arsehole. And it was like the first time where it was very, very clear objectively that she was a good person, good relationship, good values. And I was kind of shit, good person underneath it, but shit person in my behavior, um, aspiring to have better values, but didn't really have them. Fucking, just would swear when I was angry. Just lots of things, mate. Swear when I was angry, drink and not be mindful of our situation. Just kind of look for trouble. She was like, "This is unacceptable." What? Like she dropped me like a fucking fly. And it was the first time I was like, object, because I'd had bad relationships before that, but they were also a bit fucking mouthy or this or that, like, da 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 da. So I could take solace in that. Well, you have fucking problems as well. And this is really the first time objectively I was like, oh, bro, you fucked it. Like, as in me, you fucked it up. Like, you absolutely 100% fucked it up. And that was, at that time, that was a great incentive for me to go and do the work because she was from a place of good values, good upbringing, strong morals. And I thought I was until I understood there were other benchmarks out there, if that makes sense. I was like, oh, there's a new benchmark. She's not only like beautiful, but she's also beautiful of mind. And I would like to have that level and standard in my life. And it took me longer than I like to figure these things out. But that was the emotional work I needed to do, I think, because of my own insecurities, my own self-doubt, my own fears, and all of that kind of stuff. So, and then as a consequence, I began to make more money. A lot of things changed in line with that. So that's also a big part of work for people, depending. And emotional turbulence always, not always, often has symptoms in your life arguments, fights, fuck you, this, that, da 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 da, like etc. If you ever to meet my mom, she'll say that I was the worst kid for her to raise because I was fucking. I'd leave her crying all the fucking time because I was a nightmare in many respects. So that everyone's got different mountains to climb, and as I said, some of them take minutes, some of them take months. And part of that, of course, is what do I do with my Saturday? How do I become more productive and stuff? And it's why I'm a great believer in this type of work. A lot of most people, for me, most people's work is emotional. It's like, bro, you have all of the answers. It's all on fucking YouTube. Do you know what I mean? So it is. It really is these days. But doing it is can take a fucking lifetime to figure out. Yeah, and it's taken me. I mean, to get to the level of, let's say, consciousness that I have now, it's taken me. Yeah, like 32, 33. COVID, I think, was the big change. But you guys, I feel fortunate that I'm able to communicate with, you young, fine, bright, gifted people because you've got the opportunity to change it now, mate. With some intention.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
All good. All right, guys. Well, let's wrap. I'll take one more final question or comment. Otherwise, I'll let you guys crack on with your day. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to ask or talk about? Cool, sweet.